Shh. Okay, members, if you would please turn to file item number 7. We are going to end this session at 12:30. Take an hour recess and come back. So, yeah, Ms. Berman suggested that I was perhaps being far too generous. She would have preferred no recess and isn't that what you said, Ms. Berman? I think that's what you said. So we can report the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California believes in no lunch break under any circumstance at any meeting. All right. Item number 7. This is Ms. Messer, you're going to start?
I'm going to start, and I'm actually going to go very quickly on these first two. Mostly I'm going to repeat a few things that our executive officer reported.
Get that mic closer to you, please.
Sorry. In his report this morning, just for those who may have showed up after the executive officer report. Very quickly, the first item is an update on the Delta Plan status. I just want to repeat the date that was given this morning, which is November 30th, is the date that we will be publishing the final draft Delta Plan, the recirculated volume of the draft EIR, and the draft rulemaking package.
Okay, this is published for public comment?
For public comment.
Okay.
So that kicks off the public comment period.
Okay.
I would like to add 2 more dates to this, I think, that are critical and to get onto everybody's radar. The comment period will end on January 14th, so after the holidays. And on January 24th, we will have our rulemaking hearing. It will be part of our regularly scheduled council meeting.
Can I make a suggestion? After this meeting, and hopefully by tomorrow, why don't you post on the website as a document that could be in response to this agenda item, whatever you think the updated schedule is, and that way people can access it on our website as well as watch the comments you just made.
Okay.
That'd be good.
Mr. Chair, just
yes, Don.
Cindy, maybe you have some other dates that we have to throw out there. So I'm curious, what's the calendar project? Obviously, you'll have to be responding. So what's your calendar for the rest of from January 24th? And beyond, yeah.
So there are a series, obviously, of interim steps between January 14th. What we're looking at right now for an end date, so at least to give you the bookends, is April 12th would be the earliest date that we project that the council would adopt the final plan, adopt the final EIR, and adopt the regulations. And that's if we get things done in one council meeting. We have different scenarios if it goes later into April.
Yeah.
So, and then in the late February, early March timeframe, we will be bringing different elements back to the council, kind of like we did this last February, March, where we brought a summary of comments that were received on the draft EIR. We'll be doing the same sort of informative exercise. There may be comments we need to bring before the council for discussion and direction on. I have this built into my schedule where we could bring back a draft. I don't know, it would be a draft, but the final Delta Plan. Maybe we do a walkthrough of that compared to the final draft, compared to earlier drafts, just to keep everybody moving along on major changes. Again, that would probably be in the March timeframe. So.
Okay, just one follow-up question. I know that for planning purposes, we've been trying to nail down, and I'm currently on my calendar holding all the February Thursday and Fridays. Has that been determined as to when you're going to do the February meetings yet? Or are you still?
We actually have dates.
Yeah, okay, because when we were checking, and I'm trying to coordinate my board of supervisors schedule on that, and so I just recognize these are getting more critical dates as we go along.
To the extent you can project out those dates on the schedule you're going to post on the website, okay. Why don't you see if you can include either dates you're staff setting for future council meetings, or dates that are being tentatively reserved if they're questioned.
The last I had heard from just at the staff level was that you were holding. We didn't know we were holding all February dates potentially.
We are. So, yeah.
So I still need to hold all those on my calendar. I need to know if all those Fridays are being held then still.
I would say yes for the February March time frame.
It was every day of February.
No, well, it was 8. I know that it's a short month. So, but okay.
But what I will do when we post them, and I'll work with Angela as well, is if they're still tentative, we'll indicate that. And if we have a more firm idea that we need to have 2 council meetings, we'll.
No. February. No. No, it's February 22nd is problematic if we have an offsite our portion of the budget.
okay.
And I don't
That
want
is-
to miss these meetings if that's possible.
Okay, Randy?
Okay.
Did you- Gloria?
Do we have dates for December yet? Are they the standard 4th?
13th and 14th, and I'm looking behind
We'll get that,
me.
we'll get that for you, Ms.
Yeah.
Gray. I think what's going to wind up is that memo on scheduling is going to be more expansive than you've thought, not just the
Yeah.
2 dates you've just given us.
Yeah.
But it's really important to get it posted tomorrow. Members will start checking their schedules. Public can take a look at it and see also. I would be interested to know if there is a way of accelerating the pace for final council action. You know my level of enthusiasm for delay, and we're now looking at approximately a 16-month delay over our statutory deadline with an April action, which I don't like at all. I'd like to know if that could be tightened, even by a couple of weeks. And number two, I don't want to see an extension. What can we do about that? And I am personally not interested in the staff granting an extension either without a formal vote of the council. That's personal to me. But I think, frankly, enough time's gone on. I don't want to get caught again in another delay.
We don't, at this time, have any intention to extend the comment period beyond the 45 days with the mid-January.
No, I understand that, but we've experienced, we've gone through for the last couple of years is somebody's always saying something that causes it, or not doing something causes delay. I want to avoid that, and I want to get the earliest possible notice of any problems. I want to make sure everyone's held accountable to the time. I mean, it's not as if we haven't already published 7 drafts of the Delta Plan over the last year and a half, from May 2011.
And part of what,
It's not as if anyone's surprised about what we're proposing to do.
part of what I've asked Cindy to do is lay out the detailed schedule of staff reports that would bring the plan to a vote. And as we understand the time that it'll take to prepare those, we'll be examining whether it's possible to shorten the schedule. One thing we've thought of, for example, would be, would it be possible to do 3 days of council meetings instead of 2, and so that way we could get an action completed in just a single 2-week cycle that might otherwise take 4 weeks or 6 weeks. And
Well,
so we'll look at that and be consulting with you as we try to put together a final
And
schedule.
understand, council members' schedules, particularly for those who travel to Sacramento, don't live around this region, you've got to give them as much notice as you possibly can. And if you think, for example, that we need a 3-day meeting process to resolve it as opposed to delaying it another 30 days, I think that the council members, particularly who travel, might be open to the idea.
But that's why this is on the top of Cindy's agenda to pull this together so we can finalize it. So a lot of us have got to figure these details out.
That's a good idea. I would be inclined to do 4 days if necessary. I mean, I don't mind coming up for a week. It doesn't matter.
Well, okay, every day in February, every single day.
Well, right now, that's the schedule. Right now, that everyday schedule is what our consultants are on, and they would be happy to share the pain, I'm sure. But right now, we're just trying to kick the thing out the door.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, I think it's important to get that posted tomorrow. Make sure you email out to the council members a copy of the document. Let's post that document notice also on our website so the public and interested parties can get it. And then status reports on ways to shorten the time frame, if appropriate, would be. Okay. Anything, Mr. Knopf?
Nope, we'll do that.
Okay, good. All right. Do you want to walk through this memo a bit, Cindy?
On the implementation committee.
I'm sorry, we're on to the Interagency Implementation Committee now. My
Yes, there was no memo for the Delta Plan
Yeah.
status report, by the
This
way.
is 7B, members, 7B.
So I think Mr. Knopp covered really the high points of the staff report. I guess maybe I'll do a little repeating certain items again for folks that may not have been here. What we have done internally is we've kicked off this process. We're moving towards the first true implementation committee meeting in February. And what we've done in the staff report is to lay out some background, just to remind folks why it is that the council is in charge of convening this committee. It's coming out of our statute. In the final draft Delta plan, we actually expanded the description and the discussion of this committee in terms of its functions, its membership, meeting schedule. And I can certainly walk through all those details, but they are here in the staff report. They're taken right out of the draft Delta plan. A couple of items that we are suggesting that are in addition to what's in the draft plan includes who will lead the implementation committee. So we have recommendations in here that it would either be the executive officer for the Delta Stewardship Council or an interested council member. And then in addition to that, we are making a recommendation that for the implementation committee itself, the members be at the deputy director or higher level from the agencies. What we've been doing as staff is talking to a lot of other organizations and entities who convene and oversee similar committees in scope and level of interagency coordination. And this was one of the items that kept coming back, that they said you really do need to have the members be at a high level so that you have decision-making ability, it's effective, it's meaningful. So something that we've added into this report as a recommendation. And then probably the most important aspect of the staff report today and what Mr. Knopp really spoke to this morning was the game plan moving forward, how we're going to get from here to the first meeting in February. And on the last page of your staff report, we've kind of outlined our thoughts. What we propose to do are 3 meetings. So a meeting in December, which would be more of a planning preparatory type meeting, a meeting in January, be a follow-up to that first planning meeting, and then the full committee would meet in February. In the December and January meetings, we envision we would put together a straw man type document that would have the mission, the vision statement for the implementation committee, goals, objectives, and roles and responsibilities. And we'd bring these to the first 2 planning meetings to get response, to discussion, and refine those, revise them. And by the time we hit the first meeting of the implementation committee, we've got a pretty solid document for them to react to. And our hope is that they would adopt that document at the first meeting. I think in addition to that, the meeting in February would focus on near-term actions. So the discussions that we've been having here, that other entities and agencies have been having, we'd want to try and get that on the agenda. And then talk about the creation of work groups. If you will recall, in the draft Delta plan, we have a very brief discussion about ad hoc work groups, which would be created and focused on subject areas. So these would be bringing in technical expertise and appropriate staff to work on whatever the implementation committee is deemed, needs to be addressed in terms of concerns or projects or activities. And so as part of the discussion on the roles, responsibilities, and near-term actions, our hope is that we could have discussion about work groups that could be convened in the near term and start to move ahead. Over the first year, other thoughts that we've had in terms of the agenda items for the implementation committee include working towards a charter for the committee or some sort of formal agreement, and possibly a work plan of sorts where we really get down into the details of here are the actions, the agency activities and actions and priorities that we'll be working on, the committee will be working on. Here are the deliverables, here are the participants, the timelines. So we have a way to track progress and report back to the council. The committee will report back to the council as they hold 1 to 2 meetings a year, I believe is what we're calling for at this point. I think that was probably the highlights of the game plan moving forward, and I'm looking over to my executive officer to see if I've missed anything or...
You've hit all the highlights.
Okay.
That's great.
Okay, Randy?
This is a good start, and it helps to outline what the legislature has directed the council to do. The problem that we face is that the legislature hasn't directed the other agencies to do this. And so when we go about doing all these planning processes and establish an outline of the work required and the expectations and so on and so forth, agencies, state, federal, local, aren't going to jump up and down and say, yeah, great. They're going to view this as another pain in the butt agency that's forcing them to go to more meetings to do things that they're already planning to do anyway. And So somehow, in developing this work plan over the next 12 months, we need to figure out a way how this implementation committee will add value to the work that the federal, state, and local agencies that will be involved in this are already doing or intend to do. And I think the outline that you described that you're going to prepare for review in December needs to have a very take a hard look at how this implementation committee is going to help other agencies. And then it's going to require a significant sales effort, meaning one-on-one meetings between the leadership of whoever is leading this effort from the council with high-level members of each of these agencies. I'm not convinced that we'll be ready to implement in February. I hope we are, but it's not going to be the result of 2 or 3 discussions at council meetings and some work on the part of staff to get us to the point where we need to be. And I think this is the most critical thing that we will be doing in the next 2 years is effectively administering the implementation of some of these early actions that we all agree need to be done. If we can't add value to that process, then we haven't fulfilled our obligation and duty. We've got to get it right. We've got to get it right. So the 2 things, how do we explain to other agencies that this is actually going to add value and make life easier for them and not harder? And 2, how are we going to be able to manage the work and the implementation in a way that produces results that creates a sense of confidence that we're about something that's going to make a positive difference?
Hi. Just want to add some comments to that. I do agree that I think you have to show what the benefit will be to all the agencies involved. So I think the first thing is that they have to actually buy into the mission statement. And it has to be a cooperative effort. If folks don't believe that this is the right thing to do, then you're going to have some pushback. So again, I think it's going to be important when you bring the folks together that they actually agree that this is what the group is supposed to do, which is the mission statement. And of course, any agency is going to look at what the benefit is based on it's going to be more work. So I just believe you folks got to really buy into what they're there to do and the fact that the Delta plan is important to implement. Randy's right, it will be more work. But I think you also they should be looking at efficiencies. Mm-hmm. How can we do it better? Mm-hmm. Whatever is going on. And so I think those kinds of things and that folks have to be cooperative. It has to be a cooperative approach. It can't be, you do this and I won't do that. Everybody has to feel that we're cooperating to make sure that this plan is important to implement. I do have a question. I know it will be the agencies that will be on the implementation committee, but where is there an effort for public comment? Because, I think key stakeholders should be a part of that process. They may be able to provide some information on efficiencies or what's working, what's not working. Will the meetings be public meetings?
They will, and I'm sorry, I meant to mention that. So the meetings,
that's important.
Right,
Yes.
They'll be subject to the open meeting rules.
Yeah.
So they'll be open. And then in addition, these work groups will be open to
Transparency will be there in terms of what is being discussed.
And we would like to pull members onto those work groups from nonprofits, from non-agency organizations that have the expertise that we require for whatever the subject matter might be. So there's a couple of definitely opportunities for stakeholder participation.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, further questions? Pat, did anyone want to talk on this agenda item? Please bring